Hello, everyone. I'm Mac from the Rum River Art Center. I was hoping to do this sustainable wrapping workshop in person, but I'm actually really excited to be doing a video so you can pause it, rewind, watch it year after year, and share it with people on the good old interweb. One thing I just wanted to mention, this was just going to be a donation based pay what you can to participate in the workshop. I'll have a link connected to the video. If you want to donate to the Rum River, we greatly appreciate it. All of the materials I'm using and that are available for pickup if you want materials were donated or collected by me. A lot came from my grandma, and just once you ask for donations, things start to appear. So it's pretty awesome what you can find and use instead of tape and wrapping paper. So let's get started. All right, so the first technique I'm going to talk about is furoshiki or furoski. It's a Japanese style of wrapping gifts. It actually has some really cool origins of relating to them wrapping themselves after using public baths. Items that you'll need are empty boxes, such as from pasta or cereal. You can also experiment with just putting your gift in the middle of the fabric and not putting it in a box and see how that turns out. Other things to think about is maybe ironing your fabric beforehand and using or cutting or hemming some of those raw edges. Usually the raw edges don't bother me and they don't seem to stand out too often. You're going to want to use a square piece of fabric. I'll show you what happens when you don't use a square piece of fabric. It honestly doesn't seem to matter too much. The fabric just doesn't line up perfectly. And I'm not using square boxes either because not a lot of things come in square boxes. So let's get started. Alright, so I have my square fabric diagonal and I have the good print facing down. I'm going to set my gift right in the middle. I'm going to take my bottom point underneath my gift and fold it upward, right over, nice and neat like so. So one option of furoshiki is folding it all the way up to the top point. However many times you need to fold your gift up, all you want is that top point to be near the center of your gift on top there. Next, we're going to take our side points and we're going to try to neatly fold them inward. You know, when you're using wrapping paper, some people get really uptight about like making sure the folds are perfect. There's no little crinkles. The cool thing about using this technique in fabric is the fabric is already kind of loosey-goosey and naturally has those waves and bumps, so mistakes are a lot less noticeable. So I'm trying to fold in those sides nice and neat and keep it really tight. Grab both what look like bunny ears into the middle and make a nice knot. Another awesome thing about using this technique instead of paper and tape is if something doesn't turn out or you didn't quite get it the first time, it's really easy to untie and redo. Alright, and bada boom, we have our first little cute gift. I've been thinking a lot about how when we get to some of the more complicated knots, it'll be fun watching people open these as well. Like I was mentioning earlier, we don't have perfectly square boxes or necessarily perfectly square fabric, so some of the folds don't line up exactly, so something to think about if you want it to line up perfectly. Another fun thing is these knots have a little slot under the knot for a card or tag. Now I'm going to show you using a kind of more rectangular piece of fleece in my Rotini box. Pretty much the same technique with these folding techniques. You can roll it up to the top or you can fold over that tip. There's a lot of room to kind of explore how to hide that upper tip before you fold over your little bunny ears. Again, this fabric was really nice to use because it has a little more of a give and stretchy, fuzzy, and just kind of festive and fun. So I'm trying to keep it nice and tight on the side and then tying it real nice and snug at the top there. And how cute. Just a little fidgeting at the end, tightening and tucking away any loose ends, and there you go. Okay, so continuing with furoshiki technique, I am kind of building off what I just did. Those were the two really super simple. Here's one that has a little bit more of a decorative top rather than just tying a simple knot. We're going to take the edges here and we're going to tie one side, not double knotting it, just one. I'm going to twist it, make sure this guy kind of pops out. Grab the other side. Okay, so now I have 4 little tails. Okay, 4 tails. I'm going to do this around the circle kind of knot. Like they're going to cross over each other. Have you ever done that thing where everybody grabs arms and they're kind of intertwined so they're really strong? That's what we're doing. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. So I'm going to start on the bottom right corner of whatever way your box is facing, and I'm going to cross it over. Okay, I'm going to take this one that I just crossed over and go upward. This one that I just crossed over to the side, and then this one is going, the last one when you come back to the beginning is going to sneak through the little loop, is kind of finishing that nice little loop. So I snuck it through this last loop. So I'm kind of pulling tight on each little tag. You'll start to see fabric a little clearer. Okay, so again I have this crisscross, bing, 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 bing. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tags, and it has this nice little knot in the middle. What we can do to kind of finish this look here is going again around in a circle wherever you start and taking these edges and tucking them into the little loop. So I'm going to go around and kind of tuck them. Again, I'm not super worried about them being perfect because the fabric itself has this imperfect way of folding. Okay. So now I have this cute little knot on top. Just make sure that when your initial tie is really tight, and try to keep it really tight as you go around with your crisscross. I think this is really fun. I really like the 4 little knot. The only thing with this one is you can't necessarily put little cards or slide things underneath it. You can put some naturals instead. The last one I'm going to show you is what I call the top knot bag, the last folding technique. I got my big boy fabric and I'm going to use my cereal box. This is the kind of fabric that will have frayed edges if it gets kind of used over and over. You could hem it or just cut it so it's nice and freshly cut, or even iron it and fold it over and iron it just a little bit. Alright, so I got my sheet diagonal again. I got my big boy box. This folding technique is really great. It's almost like a bag, and it's great for bigger presents, and also even stacking gifts. So say you have a container or a few smaller things to put together. Stacking them like so. This is a great way to do it. So a little more room for organic shapes. Alright, so I got my box here. The first thing that I'm going to do is my top and bottom points, they're going to be folded in. Alright, So I'm flipping over those folded points. It's kind of hard to see. The camera kind of cuts off because I'm doing my big one. So yeah, I folded that over so you don't see the raw edges. Kind of like sometimes when you use the wrapping paper, you make a tiny fold so you don't see that raw edge. So I'm doing that on the top and the bottom. And you're bringing those folded edges together at the top. And then you're gonna crumple it together and go ahead and grab a rubber band and tie this knot together. Rubber bands are kind of a game changer, and you can experiment with a few different ways to utilize them with the fabric and wrapping. Now you have these kind of flyaway wings, and I'll show you as I set it down here. I'm going to take these little flyaways, or what we've been calling bunny ears, and try to fold and nicely bring them up to the bow. Each ear is going to wrap around the bow and tie in front. Now, as I was doing this specific, the cereal box, I realized I didn't like it as much on such a rigid form. I did it on some of the others that have a little more organic or a little more fuller, shorter form. Even stacking boxes with this method, again, is really awesome. So I would experiment with that. This method also has a lot of play or possibilities to bring in different colors and other ribbon. To kind of fashion it up a little bit. The last technique I'm going to show is how to make a bag out of fabric. There's so many different ways to do it, but this is the easiest. If you cut two pieces that are the same size, you can either use a sewing machine like I did, or you can hand stitch just using the running stitch. Make sure the fabric, both the good sides, are facing each other when you sew, so then you're able to flip it inside out. A couple things you might want to think about. So there's three sides that you're going to sew, hand stitch or on the machine. Decide what is the top, and you can hem that raw edge at the top or just leave it raw. I did in this example. So I just sewed it. I'm going to flip my bag inside out. And if you were thinking, if you do have a sewing machine or you're kind of an experienced sewer, you can create a little bit of a pocket at the top where you slide through some elastic or a ribbon. I was thinking about an easier way, just cutting slits with a scissor and then weaving a different type of fabric to match as the little drawstring. Something to note, if you're going to cut the slits with the scissors, just make sure that you have an even amount of cuts, because I did not do that with this, and then it doesn't come out the same, which is kind of silly. Those are all the techniques I have for you guys in this video. Love you all for wanting to learn some more sustainable techniques and practices. You can always finish your packages with some natural items found in your yard, or some recycled cardboard or paper and tied with twine or some hemp cord for tags. Thank you all. Thanks for watching and supporting Rum River Art Center.